Hey people, in terms of videos, this is going to be rather boring because I can't show you the work. Back before September even, the truck was having brake issues. And the back wheel would lock up. It turns out it was all the wheels, but you would really feel the back locking up and the truck would pull to the side, and it would take the full power of the engine to even move forward to get out of the road, and the hole underneath would heat up. As soon as the truck stopped, you could hear that crackling sound when the thing started to cool off, and it was going to do serious damage. So anyway, the pressure blew the brake line in the front, and that's how we got it to the shop. We happened to be on the road right where the one shop was. He's a little pricey, but we had a reasonable reputation as far as being crooked. In a town like this, you can always find somebody with a negative, something to say. We only have about 6 shops around here, and somebody always has something negative to say, but this guy doesn't have a particularly bad reputation, and the young guy who works there is, not too young, but, experienced. Anyway, so they replaced all the brake lines, and they replaced the calipers on 3 wheels. The 4th one was probably done somewhere along the way. I could see how rusty they were, and that's probably because the place before put grease on there instead of silicone paste. And I have to check on what they put in here when they did this, because the old calipers were in really nasty shape. And they also replaced the master cylinder, which was this little sucker right up here. Now right behind this, as you saw in the picture that I inserted at the beginning of the video, which you probably won't be able to see very well here, is the power boost. It has a piston in it. It's attached to the brake pedal, and when you push it, the piston goes forward, and the bladder uses pressure suction from the engine, vacuum from the engine, to assist with the brakes. So you have power brakes. You don't have to, you're stopping a truck, but it's power brakes. It's like stopping anything, really easy. And for whatever reason, they replaced all those lines, and they said the pistons were frozen up in the calipers, and I believe that. And like I said, I don't think they were trying to be crooks. So they replaced the master cylinder for $100 and something, but they apparently didn't even check the power boost behind the master cylinder. So it kept doing it, and I called the guy up, and he says, you want me to come pick it up? Because I didn't think we could get it the 1.5 miles down to his shop. And then he says, I got to put you on hold and grab the other phone. So he grabs the other phone, and 5 minutes later, and I hung on anyway, and then he says something like, oh, you're still there? I forgot about you. I'm like, you son of a bitch. You forgot about me after I spent all that kind of money in this place. So anyway, I wasn't going back there, and there was this new guy. I thought this guy up the road, up the backwoods here, was like a shade tree mechanic, but it turns out he's got a shop with 2 lifts and nothing fancy, no secretary, no waiting room, no free coffee, but $55 an hour, and an assistant, and it's the 2 guys, and they work for $55 an hour. So I took it in there, and he looked at the master cylinder. Now this is why I say I don't think the first guy was trying to be a crook. And he says, looks like you got a bad master cylinder. They let the pressure off it, and the wheels would not turn. They put it on the lift, and all 4 wheels were locked up. You couldn't move them. So they lowered it back down and took something off there that would take the pressure off the master cylinder, and then the wheels would turn. So he says, it looks like you got a bad master cylinder, because I told him they had just replaced that. So he calls. I says, how do you get along with Jim? That's the owner of the first place. And he says, well, I don't. So I said, well, he says, maybe we can bypass it. So I happen to know the guy who delivered the parts to Jim's place, and which is not the name of the shop, which is why I'll use his name. So I knew that. So then the second guy here, John, was able to figure out which auto parts place delivered it, and I had the date because I keep a book in there with every mile this truck has traveled, and I knew it was September 10th. And anyway, so John calls the shop, the parts place, and arranges to replace the master cylinder under warranty. So I'm just getting ready to leave, and I said, you know what, this was happening before they replaced the master cylinder. And I'm like, you know, so anyway, so they investigated a little bit more and discovered, and well, concluded that if it wasn't the master cylinder and everything else, the brake lines and everything back here were replaced, then it had to be the power boost. So I called Binghamton, and I got one used for $75, and this guy put it in. It took a few days to get it delivered, and so far everything's running good. But you know, this is not the first time. I told you in a different video, but I'll just, you know, mention it here. Another guy who is a crook, he's a salvage guy basically, and he should stick to salvage, and he replaced the fuel pump in the tank here without even replacing the fuel filter. He didn't know it had one. He doesn't know a Dodge from a Chevy. So that was a good chunk of change, because these things are, everything on this damn truck is expensive. So he replaced the fuel, and he should have went looking for the obvious, and the obvious turned out to be it was the crank position sensor had corrosion in it, and it was causing, you know, occasional failures. And naturally his story was, well, it wasn't up to specs. I mean, so maybe it was a couple of pounds gauge, you know, lower than what it should have been. But you don't replace the most expensive part first without at least sticking your ass under there and finding out whether it has a fuel filter or not, and checking. I mean, I'm sure it would have threw a code if he would have bothered to check. So I'll take a little bit of responsibility for that by not insisting that he look for the fuel filter, because 3 times he told me it didn't have one, and I know it has to have one because I looked online and they sell replacements. So, I mean, this is like medical care, where they always tell you got to be responsible for your own health. And the purpose of this video basically is to tell you, you know, don't let them give you a story. Investigate it first, especially now with YouTube. I would have discovered this myself if I would have known to look for the power assist, see, the power booster. But I didn't. So when I searched for master cylinders, none of the other videos mentioned, well, if it's not your master cylinder, you know, here's where else to look. And so I had no cause to even think about a power boost, because I didn't even know it existed. So I got screwed again, but not too heavily this time. So, you know, if I can leave you with one suggestion, it's ask around and go to YouTube. If they give you an estimate and say you need this, investigate first. I don't know if you know who Scotty Kilmer is. He's a YouTuber, and he's got 47 years experience, and he answers car questions, and you can get a hold of him. And of course there's Click and Clack. Tommy just died recently. The guys who did and still do, they still run the Best of Car Talk on NPR on Saturday mornings. And you know, these were mechanics with their own shops, and you can't trust a mechanic. Some woman went in there, she lost a ring down her the vents in the front. They're like, you didn't supervise him? that ring is long gone. You know, they're telling you, just don't trust the mechanic. So I think John, the guy I mentioned here, is reasonably honest, even though his partner says on the other video, his helper there says that he isn't honest. So hopefully it's more shtick than truth. So I got out of here with this for, what, $200, 2 hours of labor, and they replaced. I don't know for sure that he put the new master cylinder in there or not, the replacement under warranty, but he did put the thing I ordered from Binghamton, and hopefully we got everything else. I just have to find out, have him check next time the truck is up there whether they use silicone paste on the brackets in here or not. Otherwise I'm going to have the same problem again. It's going to rust out like it did the last time. This truck has had brake problems and all kinds of stuff. Just doesn't get the mileage. Although now that gas prices are down, hopefully we'll take them out more often. I went in there, the grocery store here, you get discounts in fuel So we filled them up the other night, 13 gallons I put in there and another 7 in the cans, because you get the discount applies to 20 gallons. And I paid $44 for 20 gallons, so quite a bit different than filling just the truck for 60. It was way up there, 60, almost 80 when it's at $4 a gallon, and 20 gallons is $80. So with that discount, it was marked at like $250 or something. So, but I don't remember how much discount I had, but it brought the price down to $220 or something. So I did all right with that. So hopefully we can do a little more truck driving these days. So anyway, try not to get ripped off. That's twice for me, and hopefully it's not going to happen a third time. Good luck. Thanks for watching. Any questions, post them below. If this video was inspirational to you, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe, of course. That's always useful, because I will try to provide useful information when I do videos. So have a good one. 1st of February. Spring is on the way. First warm day, 28 feels like the first day of spring. So have a good one. I'm done. Bye.